Today, we're unpacking a truly fascinating, yet honestly incredibly sobering documentary titled The Town Walmart Destroyed. Now, the filmmakers don't approach this with loud accusations or finger pointing. Instead, they use a calm, serious, and deeply cinematic lens that literally forces you to slow down. It asks you to really look at what happens when the entire fabric of a community fundamentally shifts. We're going to walk through the evidence, the timeline, and the very real human stories they've laid out just to understand the true impact of mega retailers on local life.
The documentary opens with this thought. In America, some towns don't die from disaster, they die from convenience. Man, that line hits hard, doesn't it? The film presents this not just as an observation, but as its absolute central thesis. And this entire explainer is going to focus on unpacking that exact dynamic. It's a look at how a quiet, almost unnoticeable shift in our everyday shopping habits can fundamentally dismantle an entire local ecosystem. The source material frames this super objectively. There were no villains scheming in a boardroom somewhere. It was just a powerful economic force meeting everyday human choices.
Part 1. Before the Giant, Life on Main Street. Okay, let's dive into this. To really understand what was lost, we have to understand what was there to begin with, right? The documentary paints this rich sensory picture of life on Main Street. It wasn't just about commerce, it was literally about existence. The narrator describes the smell of fresh bread drifting through the downtown streets before sunrise as the bakery opened up. There were bustling sidewalks where the hardware store owner knew exactly what you needed before you even asked. On Friday nights, teenagers hung out near the movie theater, and local football games brought the whole town together. These weren't just places to buy stuff. They were the essential hubs of human connection. Now, you might be wondering about the timeline here, and what's really interesting is the legacy it reveals. The source makes it crystal clear that these businesses represented the town's memory. Many were founded back in the 1950s by grandparents, passed down to the parents in the 70s, and by the 1990s, they were absolute pillars of the community's identity. Some of these owners had worked behind the exact same counter for 40 years. The entire town just operated under this deeply ingrained assumption that things would simply never change. Part 2, The Arrival, a shift in the skyline. So, in the early 1990s, these quiet rumors about a massive corporation moving in finally became reality. By 1992, bulldozers arrived just outside of town and started clearing massive plots of land. Steel frames rose up into the sky, and soon enough, that iconic, giant blue sign appeared, and it's absolutely crucial to note here. The residents were thrilled. There was genuine, palpable excitement in the air. Newspaper headlines captured in the film celebrated the grand opening as a new era for the town. And we have to look at this impartially, just like our source does. The allure was massive and honestly completely understandable. The megastore brought the promise of local jobs, incredibly cheap toys for the kids, inexpensive groceries, and just endless opportunity. The grand opening looked like a massive town festival. Parking lots were overflowing and families were lined up around the block just to get inside. And this brilliantly illustrates the exact crossroad the town found itself at. On one side, you have the traditional downtown. It's built on local relationships, familiarity, and daily visits to multiple specialized shops. On the other side, you have the megastore, endless shelves under bright lights and prices that local businesses simply could never, ever compete with. At first, people thought they could have both, But the irresistible allure of getting everything in one single trip for half the price slowly began to pull foot traffic away. It left the local pharmacy and the bakery quietly waiting for crowds that just never returned. Part 3. A slow collapse, going dark. What followed wasn't some sudden explosion. It was a devastating, silent, economic domino effect. 6 months. It took exactly 6 months. That is how incredibly fast the first casualty occurred. It was a small, family-owned pharmacy whose owner had worked behind that exact same counter for 32 years. After just 6 months of competing with a giant blue sign on the edge of town, he locked his doors one final time and never reopened. And here is how that collapse really starts to build. It wasn't just one store. Step 1, the pharmacy closes. Step 2, the barber shop follows. We're introduced to Tom in the documentary, who had been cutting hair since 1971, literally watching generations grow up in his chairs. He eventually had to turn off the lights too. Step 3, the bakery goes dark. Hundreds of loaves baked daily, completely gone. Soon after, the diner, the bookstore, the movie theater, all gone. Each small closure on its own felt kind of manageable, but sequentially, they transformed the entire foundation of the town. The documentary uses these really slow, lingering camera shots to show the physical decay that started setting in. The streets became noticeably quieter. You see storefronts with dusty windows slowly filling up with stark, out-of-business signs. It's a very visual, very visceral manifestation of an economy being drained entirely from the center outward. But the source makes its absolute most poignant argument right here. It wasn't just a physical decay, it was an emotional disappearance. The filmmakers define this as the loss of conversations, the fading of friendships, and the absence of familiar faces that happens when local gathering spaces just vanish. Without these shared spaces, people literally stopped connecting. Teenagers started leaving town to find things to do. Families moved away searching for work, and even local church attendance began to shrink. The town was losing its soul.
Part 4. The New Empty Reality. A Town Frozen in Time.
Walking through the downtown at night now, it feels like a town completely frozen in time. The visual juxtaposition in the film is just striking. You have the full megastore parking lots on the edge of town, buzzing with cars and glowing under massive floodlights, compared directly against the abandoned, dark Main Street buildings. Now, staying neutral as our source material does, it is highly important to acknowledge that many residents still vehemently defend the megastore. They point out that it did bring jobs, and it does keep the cost of living down for struggling families. But the documentary forces us to look squarely at the haunting emptiness of the old downtown and really ask what was traded for those low prices. So the crucial point is this: what the town lost can't easily be measured on a balance sheet. They lost identity, they lost community, they lost belonging. The filmmakers note with a really heavy heart that younger generations growing up there today will simply never get to experience what that vibrant Main Street felt like. They'll never know shop owners who recognize them by name the very moment they walk through the door. Part 5. Convenience versus community, the true cost. You see, this single town story isn't just an isolated incident. It serves as a mirror for hundreds of towns struggling across America right now. The film captures this entire phenomenon perfectly with this quote: "Convenience replaced community, and efficiency replaced connection." That is the ultimate takeaway from the source material regarding modern consumerism. The town didn't disappear overnight. It happened slowly, a discount at a time, a closed business at a time, a forgotten street at a time. As we look out over these quiet, empty streets, the documentary leaves us with a truly profound thought. And it's the exact thought I want to leave you with today as we wrap up this explainer. Look at your own shopping habits, look at your own downtown, and ask yourself, when does convenience cost more than connection? Thank you so much for exploring this with me, and I'll see you on the next explainer.